Hey guys, welcome back to Checkmate Fusion. My name is Rob Decoste, and I had the privilege of competing this last weekend in the Top Cut Regional, where I finished first place with yours truly, Goku. He's back for week 2. So for those of you who saw the video from the previous week, I competed with this deck, finished 11th place. I was pretty happy with the results. There were a couple of losses that were just like, it just happened, right? Like the OTK from 6-0, the top deck of the SCR for my opponent when they had 2 cards left in hand, things like that. You know, you can't really account for everything. But I came back with a vengeance, and here we are with our with our first place finish. Most of the deck hasn't changed, to be honest with you. Today I'm just going to kind of talk matchups and some of the changes that we made to the list overall. So we'll just kind of briefly go through here. And I'm just going to say right now, we'll have a link for the deck profile in the comments below or in the description of the video. So you can just take a look, and if you want, you can follow along there. But the Z deck remained entirely untouched, surprisingly. We got the two extra cards, along with the 4 Tien, the 3 Gokus, and of course the 1 Unison. The Unison came in clutch. It won me the final round against Ivo again, because that's kind of how I used it to beat him in the previous tournament. So pretty lucky there. Let's talk about the main board real fast. So a couple big changes. I added a 7th Bulma to the list. So I'm going to shift through my list here. And the Bulma I'm talking about is not the one that comes with it, with the archetype, but the Bulma that came from set 24. The party hostess, I believe that's her name. I like this search top 5. I think it's pretty valuable looking for super combos mid to late game when you have a lot of extra energy left. So I went from 3 and 3 to 4 of the party hostess, and then 3 of the in-archetype world protection support. So that was one of the changes that I made to the list. Couple of the other changes that I made to the list, I cut one of the skill lists down. So instead of running 4 of the launch and 2 of the Ox King, I went 4 launch and 1 Ox King instead. Honestly, I kind of found that 5 was still a little too much, but if you come across black or blue, they have a tendency to bottom deck or warp. Warp being particularly worse, right? So you can't get them back. So 5 is kind of like a safe number, even though sometimes you'll draw into it late in the game. I know that we entertained the idea of 4, and I thought, that's a little scary. What if they're all in life, or whatever the case is, right? Or what if they do get warped and you can't get them back? So we went with 5 here, and it worked out really, really, really well. Couple of the other changes. I mean, the rest of the engine stayed the same. You had like the 4 Goku, the 4 Chaozu, the 4 Bulma. You know, the trio that's just literally unstoppable. It's so dumb. It just completely edges out so many decks in the format. I know I saw a lot of green Trunks players from BT25 playing, and you know, that deck just like hard loses on turn 2 going second, because they can't even awaken, because the Chaozu just says, oh, I'm going to hit your Unison, or I'm going to hit your Vegeta awakening skill. And it's just super, super frustrating. So hopefully Bandai, if you're watching, which I know you're not, but if you are, maybe we can see some change at the Chaozu. I think could be very healthy for the game. The negate package stayed the same, 4 explosive dance and 4 testing. I mean, I guess in a format with Kotsukai running at 3 in most decks, I feel like testing might not be the ultimate answer. I might switch that lineup around. I got to test around with a little bit. I mean, testing is still very, very good, but I mean, After Image is a non-battle card version, right? I mean, it doesn't stop the attack though, which can be pretty relevant. I did add 2 counterattacks though. I played against Carlos last weekend in the final round. He ended up finishing 3rd with his Kitku list, and he played 2 of these Roshis in the list. I said, wow, that's really, really great. For those of you who don't know, it's a counter attack that says if you have a Unison play, your opponent cannot attack with battle cards 25k or more for the rest of the turn, and then play this card. It's all in the counter window, so even if they counterplay the Roshi itself, It doesn't matter. They have to counter the Roshi, and there are just not many cards in the format that can do that. So this was a great choice, and it actually won me my mirror match against Tony in round 5. So, or round 6, excuse me. So fantastic addition. The baby unison is what I played last week at 4. Not changing that. As a matter of fact, if I could add a 5th one, I would. What I did do is I brought in the 3rd Videl counterplay. I was at 2 and then 1 in the sideboard last week. I just decided bring the 3rd one in permanently, and then you can side it out if you really need to. And there were matches where I just took all 3 out because you just don't need that counterplay, and you could use the space elsewhere. But the Videl is really, really powerful. The baby is overly powerful in conjunction with the Roshi, as well as just the baby just kind of curb stomping a lot of decks. It was really surprising to see the power of that card and your opponent not being able to answer it almost immediately. Even in green decks, it sometimes just didn't have the answer. Now, I didn't play any green decks this past week, but in the week prior, I did, and I was able to keep that baby alive really strong. Particularly great in the mirror match because it absorbs their skillless cards and doesn't give them back. And so you're like, haha, how are you going to chow to me if you don't have one in the drop? And that's like a big deal, right? So you play a baby on turn 3, you tuck a card, you absorb a card, and then you tuck another baby. That unison is just not dying that game. That's an extra draw each turn that your deck typically doesn't generate, and it just helps keep you in the long game. And that's ultimately like how I ended up winning the tournament, was because I was playing against the Black Hatchak match in round 7, and that just kept me afloat the entire game, and it's an extra swing that Hatchak just has to deal with. So pretty solid. The rest of the deck from the first week to the second week remained the same. The SCR, the Vegito, the 4 Rabbit Super Combos, the 2 Broly Omens of Evolution, and the 2 Super Saiyan Gohan Self-Taught Truth. All of those cards stayed in. They all the Gohans and the Brolys specifically did find themselves siding out from time to time. It just depends on the matchup, depends on what you need. And then everything else was pretty much the same. So the deck list is already up. You can, like I said, you can see it in the description below. And then you can kind of see what this list is about. But I'm going to talk quickly about the sideboard before I talk about matchups and like how to play the deck, because I think that's what we're here for now. In the sideboard last week, I had the Cell and the Vegeta. I kept them. I expected to see Hatch again, and I was correct. And they come in handy in that kind of matchup. So the new addition to the sideboard was the Gohan defeating the Demon. Actually won me my U7 game in round 5. My opponent, Orlando, had, I think he Koitsukai'd, and then he went to Purunga, and he was pretty low on hand, and I had to sit there and go, do I double counterplay here? I think I do. So I gave up basically 6 cards from my hand to stop his Purunga's activation by going Gohan and then Videl in window 2. And I think it shored up the match for me pretty well, because it was just, I think it was his last ditch play to clear my board and draw some cards, and I just denied it. So really good, oppressive minus 40k. Also good, like if you were to see like blue, yellow Gogeta, or even yellow Gogeta, any of those cards that just like do something, activate main on your opponent's turn, those are practical applications. 2 Violent Rays stayed the same, although I only ever did use 1. I have some ideas on that. The counter for red, pretty straightforward. The 2 Shoes were the same. Card's great. I love it. I wish... and it's searchable, it's an Earthling, and also if they remove it, it's an Earthling and triggers Bunny Girl, like LOL. The double Deborah, the green's the only color I didn't play this weekend, which is kind of weird. But I guess lucky, so I'm not going to complain about it. The triple Koitsukai. Last week's video, I said this is a 3 of. Ironically, I only cited 2 in any given match. So maybe it's not a 3 of. I don't know for sure. And of course, the Secret Identity, which I only really side in against like Tapion and the Kidku matchup, because I want to warp their cards as opposed to letting them get them back. So that's the side deck. All right. So what about the matches? So round 1, I played against Red Broly, the crit version. At first, I was kind of sweating bullets because I have like a really bad history with that deck. One of my locals, Joey, plays it all the time, and he would torment us constantly. Set 10, 11, 12 back in the day, and I think that just sits in my head rent free as like, oh, this deck is so powerful, and I think the deck is still pretty powerful, but I think the deck just isn't quite fast enough for what Kid Ku does, and it is kind of a glass cannon, so taking your own life to set up your own plays is not really great when I'm swinging 30Ks at your face nonstop. So that match did not last very long. My opponent did play very well, but unfortunately it did not end great for him. My second round was Vegito X, who I believe he went X1 maybe towards the end of the tournament, maybe X2. He did really well. As a matter of fact, most of my opponents who I played against ended up topping or coming in the top bracket, top half at least of the tournament. The Vegito X player, I felt really terrible for him. So the strategy for Kid Ku is this. You have to starve them out. I mean, the Kid Ku player has to be the control deck. And I am a control player naturally. I know my recent deck profiles would say differently, playing red all the time, but I play my aggro decks like a control deck. So essentially, I just, I kind of starved him out of resources using that Broly Omen of Terror. I think that's what it's called. The green Broly that's in the list. Using that to starve him from getting the Z battle cards, Omen of Evolution, excuse me, this one right here. Using this to starve the Vegito player of Z energy and just giving up my swing on my front side to not give him that extra Z. Basically shut him out of his unison for the entire turn, and then kind of once that happens, the whole engine of the deck falls apart. So Vegito X is very, very, very reliant on that unison coming into play, and it's a 2 energy unison, a 2 Z unison. So if you can starve him out, early negates are great, shut down the return. Broly Evolution reduces their Z count even more. And then you just kind of sit on them till the later game. You can establish your baby unison. And then now your Videl is live to hit their 20Ks that come into play that are fusion targets. And then you can see where this is going. So unfortunately, I kind of put him in a pickle. He had like 5 or 6 cards on turn 4. And he had nothing to do but play his Evil Saiyan, and then after that I was like, okay, cool, I can go in because I don't really have to worry about the biggest crackback in the world. And so ultimately that game was a W for me. He did play as well as he could, but I felt terrible just kind of denying him of everything. Round 3 was against my teammate John Lanza, who I believe went top 8, and it might have been 16. I'm sorry, John, I don't remember the exact standings, but I know he played Red Gohanks. And I love that deck, as a lot of you know. I played that at Nationals and had a great success with it. I did go second, and I thought, okay, cool. I think I can still handle this. I don't think John was expecting me to tap 3 on turn 2 and establish Baby going second on 2 energy. That solidified the game for me. I think we ended 2 turns later. Because he just could not clear that unison. I think it had like 7 markers by the end because I kept tucking my unison. I had the Videl ready for the Gohan SR. It was just, it was a big steamroll after that Baby came down. And so again, it just talks to the significance of that unison. The Bean is really impactful. It makes all their 20Ks just a 1 card get out for free, which is huge because you're tapped out. It also just helps clear the board really efficiently, clear the board, especially of big stuff that may be out of range of like your -15s. And so Baby is really big there. Round 4 was against Tapion, which historically we have a pretty good matchup into. I don't really quite understand why. The deck does draw an insane amount, but I guess it's just like a game of attrition. I know he didn't see his SCR. I don't think I did either, actually. But like you just generate a lot of pressure early. Oh, you can't awaken them. Sorry, they can't awaken properly, right? I did the same thing as the Vegito player. Now I'm thinking about it. I went first. I established turn 2 my 20K skill list and then held 1 up for my Chaozu, and then he tried to awaken, and I was like, no, or something of the sort. I know he also didn't see a 1-drop. He kept his hand but didn't see the right cards. But typically the Tapion matchup is exactly what I just described. Kind of hold your Chaozu, stop their awaken on turn 2 by just negging the card 15, or negging their little 1-drops as they come into play is really important, because then they can activate, activate main on the 4-drop 20k Double Strike Tapion, or activate may battle on the free attack trunks. They all require heroes in play. So if you just deny them of their heroes, then they can't play their cards. And that's really the answer to Tapion right there. So a lot of times I'll play Videl, and then they'll swing and they'll combo their 2 1-drops. I'll go, okay, counterplay the 2 1-drops. And then they don't have much else to do because they don't have heroes in play. So that's a pretty good matchup, and something to consider when playing against it. Round 5, as I talked about, was against U7. I thought for sure this is where I was going to take my first L. I hadn't played against U7. I hadn't seen really the new version of the deck. I wasn't sure what to expect or what SCR to see. So Orlando was playing... I feel like he was playing pretty conservatively, which is smart. Like, he wasn't awakening early and taking himself down to 6. I was intentionally just choosing to sit on him to see what he would do. So not swinging early, not giving him the free 2 life, and then eventually I was like, okay, I have to start swinging at him, I guess, because he's not going to awaken until I hit him down to 6, which I thought was a great play on his part. And then I don't know, just built a huge board, and I built a huge board, and I can clear stuff really easily. Minus 15 on those Majin Vegetas is pretty big, so they don't really connect. And the thing about U7, as we all know, is the deck doesn't draw cards. So, it's just kind of a race to run out the opponent's resources, and it worked out pretty well. And as I said earlier, he was running Purunga. So when he went to play while I was under Koitsukai, I Gohan and then Videl them the second window. So minus 40 the Purunga before I had a chance to activate, which I think more or less shorted up the game for me. I think I won the following turn. So pretty big there. So that was round 5. Round 6 was the Kidku mirror. And so, yeah, how does that, I went first this time, I think I went first this time. I know I went second last week in the Kidku mirror, and I almost had it, but it was a heart of the cards moment for Carlos, I feel, with the top deck of the 5 and the SCR. And then he just absolutely crushed me from it. So I think I went first, and I played Baby first, and then he played Baby after me, but I was able to clear his, and he was not able to clear mine. Part of that just was like with blocker tokens and having the right counterattacks and all those things, are the counter plays like Bulma and Chaozu. But that game really does come down to kind of like an attrition-based game, right? So the game lasted quite a while. At some point later in the game, I decided I need to play the board. He had like 3 TNs in play. I had 3 TNs in play. He had a 30k. I had a 30k. And I was like, okay, well, we can't play this. We can't just keep letting each other swing at each other. So I decided just to clear his board first, which forced him to respond with his Unison, his new Unison from the Z deck, that minus 25 metal board. And then after that, I was able to secure the game because I think he was tapped out and kind of out of resources. Also, I feel like the answer to the Kidku mirror is whoever has to play their explosive dances first is probably behind a little bit. That's a finite resource. You only have 4, and it's highly unlikely you're drawing all of them in a game. So if you can get your opponent to explosive dance first, that just kind of gives you that extra turn. I mean, it's limited testing, so I don't take my word as law here. It's just something I had observed. And then round 7 was against Ivo's Hachiak, which I'd played against last week in Riverside. And it was honestly, I was dreading it because I was just like, the last week I won with 2 cards left in deck. And I played the Cell Max for the final kill after the Unison, after everything else. And like, I was just completely tapped. And so a couple things that I did is I sided in extra Koitsukais just against Ivo. I don't think I did it all last week, which was so dumb. The fact that I got it was pretty lucky. But I sided in like my 2 Koitses and my 2 shoes and the 2 8-drops and a Violet Ray. I sided out so much just to bring in like most of the sideboard just to give me some different lines of play. Super grindy. The answer to that match is just to kill his Unison. Do not let that thing live. It will keep him alive for the whole game, and that's pretty bad. Having to... I made a couple play mistakes, which I was able to get out of. I think Ivo may have as well when I Koitsukai'd, and then he played some battle cards that cost him some cards from hand. Both of us, I mean, I thought played pretty well, and it really did come back down to like the very last little bit. I mean, we did go to time, which I guess we would expect with that matchup. We did go to time. I did win 2-1 on life, but I mean, it was really, really, really coming down to it. And so, but ultimately, I mean, that's just how the game is, unfortunately. I think, and Ivo could argue this, but I think if it didn't come down to life, I may have had just enough to push over the edge to survive and maybe close out the game. But I mean, that's not a guarantee, right? There never is. But overall, the tournament went really well. I mean, the deck is just really solid. There's still things that we can do differently. There's still new techs to explore and try out, but it seems really promising into the current meta, so long as the Chaozu and the Bunny Girl aren't touched. But if you ask me personally, I do think the biggest aggressor of the deck is Baby, which is kind of weird to see not so many players playing it, because I think it's very powerful, and it just does a lot for not that much. Historically, in the past, 3 energy for a Unison seemed like a ridiculous thing, but in this match, I think it works a little bit better because you're just going to 6 life immediately. You can defend it with blocker tokens, and you've got free plays up the wazoo. So I think the Baby's pretty powerful in this list as a whole. So, but yeah, congratulations to all my opponents. Everyone played really well. The tournament was very, very fun and enjoyable. And of course, congratulations to our teammates on Checkmate Fusion. I believe we had 6 in the top 16 for the final brackets. So that's really great for you guys. I'm very happy for everyone, and seeing some of my teammates who I haven't seen in a while kind of coming back and playing. It was really cool and refreshing to see. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I'll kind of hop in and answer what I can. But thanks a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone online at Gen Con. I won't be there in person, but hopefully we'll see you online and we'll get some good games in. Until next time, take care.